Hey guys, what's going on, and welcome back to the channel. So in the last video I told you guys kind of where I've been, what I've been doing. This video we're going to go over just a little bit of the install of the AirDog. AirDog is the only lift pump that I run, and the main thing is their customer service. Their customer service is hands down some of the best that I've ever received from any company, really. AirDog is just super supportive when it comes to their tech. They're super supportive when it comes to their customer service, and they just want to make sure that their customers are happy, and they got a pretty awesome product. So like I said, we are doing an AirDog install. We did have some issues with the frame right here. It was rotted out pretty good in this section, so I cut out some plates and we sandwiched it on both sides and then across the bottom, and then I also did another flat plate, heated up and hammered up the sides and tied it into where the frame connects right there. So everything is good and stiff. The rest of the frame just didn't look just too bad. He put some paint on it, ran out, just got a little bit more painting to do, but it is sandwiched. You can see right down in there. So the frame's stiffened back up, everything's pretty good. So we're going to mount the AirDog in the same location as I did on the 3rd gen dually. Difference being the 3rd gen dually was an 04, this is an 03. So things are just a little bit different as far as the fuel canister, and the basket is different as well. So this one here had the internal pump. I've already got the basket modified, got the bottom of it cut out, I got the pump tore out of it. And then, if you remember right, if you guys go back and look, I'll put, oh no, up top, not down below. I'll put a tag up there. The fuel can on the 4th gen, I'm sorry, on the 3rd gen dually, it had the lift pump on the back side of the can, which is actually back here. That's where the lift pump goes on the 4th gen, or on the 04. This is 98.5 to 03, I believe, is what this kit pertains to. So anyway, I delete this out of there, get rid of it. I don't like it. Don't like to leave it in there. Nothing gets left because you pull all the banjo fittings, or you pull the banjo fitting out of the CP3, and you do put this fitting in there. Make sure and put your crush washer in there. Again, on the dually project, I went to Fleece and bought a canister delete. This time he is on a budget and everything's got to be done on the cheap. So what we did was we went to Amazon. We bought the one that had the best reviews and purchased it. This one come in right about 40 bucks to our door with tax and everything. So we're going to utilize it and try it. I mean, for 40 bucks versus $85, $86 for Fleece, why not try it? You want to make sure and pull your water and fuel sensor out of your canister and put it in the bottom. Again, this comes with the same port. If you're running dual CP3s or something like that and you want to do another return, you can put it right there. What this does, this has your CP3 return, and it also has your return from the back of the head from excess fuel. Just want to make sure and save your banjo bolts, 2 of them. It does come with new crush washers to be able to be installed, and you will not reuse any of these crush washers. This is the banjo bolt, the 12mm banjo bolt from the CP3. They're all 3 the same, so just make sure and keep 2 of them to utilize on your delete block. Alright, I think I have you for the most part caught up. So I do have just one line ran. He did opt to go with the sump as well. So I do have the sump mounted. I do plug the sump return, or the return from the AirDog, because I utilize the factory feed for my return from the AirDog, and I'll show you that as well. Alright, before I go too much further, I think I'm going to go ahead and put the canister delete block in and get that buttoned up. Just because those fuel lines are open, everything else is closed. I did pull off the, like I said, that gets removed right there, and I do have a plug in the top of the CP3. Just want to get some things tidied up and buttoned up. I really can't do anything after I run the fuel hose up here and the wiring harness, because we got to get new batteries for the truck and we got to get other things buttoned up. We do have a company reached out to me, wanted to know if I wanted to try one of their intake horns. It's just your atypical intake horn, so that's what we received thus far. He does want to do some different colors. I didn't specify, they didn't ask, but they went ahead and sent me black. Kind of wish they would have just sent me a polished one, that way we could do whatever color powder coat we want. One of the things I did notice on it, they sent a bracket for the dipstick, which the bracket doesn't make any sense, to be honest with you. Most of the time they've got another like little bung right here like this welded on top to where you can put your dipstick tube hat. So I'm just gonna have to try and figure things out with that. They just asked if I wanted to try it. They wanted to sponsor one of my videos, so he wanted one, so we're trying one. This truck's got just under 300,000 and not too bad, really. You can see it's pretty clean, to be honest with you. Not a lot of carbon buildup. Not a lot at all. We do need to do some cleaning up there before we put things together though. Anyway, let's grab that delete block, put it in place right there. You can see the one banjo fitting back there where I'm pointing at. Hopefully I can get things situated so you guys can see. All right, we'll just use the factory hardware. Put this in place. All right, I've got both bolts started. I'm gonna leave them loose because I do have to, you got your one crush washer on the front side. You got to slide that through, put another crush washer on the back side against the aluminum block. So I want to leave things loose as we're doing it to be able to hopefully get things started where they need to be. There's the front one. Of course, that's the one you can see. There's the back one. I'll just make those finger tight as well. I'll tighten up these two bolts right here. These are a 10mm socket, and then you'll need 17mm to tighten up the banjo bolts. Also, your dipstick mount will go right back in place right there. You can see that. Use that same hardware. Make sure to remember to plug in your water and fuel sensor, which does not reach. So we're going to have to pull that out of the harness just a little bit and redo some things to be able to get that water and fuel to reach the bottom of that block. You see it dangling right there between my fingers. It does not reach to the block. So yeah, we're gonna have to take this harness loose just a little bit right here. It's not something that's necessary. It's just something, since it's there, I like to reuse it. Otherwise, if this is just left open, if you have a rainy day and water gets in this plug right there, you will get a water and fuel light. Or if you take your sensor and just plug it in there and let it dangle, and water and it touches or water hits it, it will cause a water and fuel light to come on. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of modification here to be able to reach that over there and plug it in. All right, let's get our fuel basket reinstalled first. There's a couple other things I want to show you. build a return, and then start running the wiring harness and the fuel lines up front to the engine bay. One of the things that I noticed on this truck that I did do that I didn't do on the dually is this is your factory relay and your harness that goes back to your in-tank pump. I didn't notice this on the dually before, but I did notice this on Jonah's truck. So after you unplug your plug from your ECM, it's laying there someplace. Anyway, after you unplug it, it's about a 5-inch pigtail that comes out of the ECM, and then his came right up and plugged into a relay right here, running power to the battery, going back down and going into this chassis harness going back to the tank. So what I did was I cut that off, looped it over, put heat shrink on it, and I'm going to tuck it inside the harness right here coming from the engine bay, and then tape everything back up and make it look as factory as possible. So that power wire for the intake lift pump will go right in there like that, and then that'll all get taped up and look like it was never disturbed. So anyway, because you got it on this one here, since it does not have the the pump on the back of the canister, you got to look for it. It's right there. It's visible, but sometimes it's hiding. It's a gray plug. Looks like this on the end. And then you'll have this portion on your AirDog harness, and that's what you'll plug into. So all of this on the 03s can be deleted and get rid of clutter out of your engine compartment. After you get it down in place, orientation is pretty easy. There's a notch right here, and it lines up with, there's two little marks on the tank, but nevertheless, you can just line it back up where the factory return is. This is the return that's going to be coming from the canister delete. So I'll put my ring back on. Make sure that's tight. We can put the factory return back in place. Like I said, that's from the CP3 and also from the excessive fuel from the back of the head. Plug in our sending unit, just like so. Make sure that does clip. I'm having troubles getting this one to clip in place. So I'm gonna have to work with that a little bit, see how easy that's coming off. There's some clips right there, and it's not locking on there for some reason. So I'll have to work on that, make sure that clips in place. Now, this return right here, I buy extra fittings from AirDog and also keep them in my box when I'm doing an AirDog install. So your AirDog return calls for a 1/2 inch to 3/8, and you get this 90 in your kit. I usually traditionally use this one on the pump itself right over here, and then like I said, I keep extra straights for this location right here, because it's the same size as your factory feed for your CP3 initially. So what I'll do is I'll have this coming off the AirDog over here, and I'll route hose around to go right into here. Otherwise, they want you to use a fuel neck return, which is great, it's fine. I just like to go a little bit different ways of doing things, and like I said, I buy extra fittings or have extra fittings on hand. You can buy these fittings from AirDog if you so choose. I just like to do it this way versus this way. What you do is you cut your fuel neck, the rubber portion, you put this in both sides. They do provide hose clamps. You put this in there, and then you have hose going from here, from your AirDog into this your fuel neck, which is fine. It is directional. Like I said, I just like to make things a little bit different than what's supplied for me. So we'll get some rubber hose cut for this one and get this set in place where we want it as far as routing, and then we'll start with the other stuff. All right, I've got one fitting pressed on right here. So I'm gonna put that on the AirDog's return right there. And I've kind of got it looped around. They don't make a 180. It's just 90s and straights. So I've got it looped around. I've got the 90 here. So I believe I'm gonna cut it right there, something like that. And then that'll still give me plenty of hose left over to go from here then to the engine compartment. So now I'll just push that fitting on there, and I'll have my supply and I'll have my return ready to go. And then the only thing I need to do is run my feed from here up to the engine compartment and then run the wiring harness back together. I do those two together because of zip tie and everything. I can keep the wiring harness and the supply to the CP3 together, and it makes it just for easier access. I know where the harness is and I know where the fuel feed or the hose is. It's pretty obvious, but in this instance, this is what I'm gonna do. I have on the second gen, I have before used the return, I'm sorry, the factory feed for the return. I did this on the second gen. It was just a little bit upsized, but what I noticed is I had to adjust my pressure on the AirDog, because what that did was it allowed more volume to go back and it dropped fuel pressure actually. I don't know if it was just a coincidence or if it was something that actually did, but by me doing that, I did notice a 2 to 3 pound drop in fuel pressure, so I had to adjust that. So now all I do, what I've been doing on every other install I've done, I just utilize the factory return the way that it was, and then I just use the factory feed, and they're indicated on your hat right here, has arrows. I use the factory feed for my return for the AirDog. That's what I've been doing on every other install, and everything's worked out pretty good. All right, I think I'm going to end the video here. I pretty much have everything routed. We did get, like I showed you before, we got the delete block in place. We do have to mess with the harness just a little bit to try and lengthen that water and fuel sensor plug. We have feed from the AirDog. We have our battery feeds laying here. Those will get cut off or tidied up. A lot of times what I do is I just coil them up on top of the battery, kind of like a nice tight coil, just in case it ever needs to move. One thing you can do if you want to utilize everything is run it to the battery on the passenger side if you so choose. And I do have the relay mounted where the factory relay was. Everything's running down. Primarily what I like to do is run this right along the fuel rail, the frame rail on top, on back. You can see everything kind of drops down right there. I like to run things right on the inside of the frame rail where all the factory stuff lies. Following it back, I just got to tidy things up, zip tie it to all the mounts. You can see he's got a tail section leak. and then everything will come out right here, go on top of this cab mount. That's one of the other things I forgot to mention as well. Anytime I have hose touching steel, I always put just a little bit of extra protection in there, and I do zip tie it down. I take a piece of bigger hose, split it, zip tie it on there. You can see I did it here as well. That just helps protect your fuel line or your hose, your rubber hose, because that's rubbing on steel. So we'll plug this in, tidy things up. Gives you a better look on what we did with the frame rail. Alright, with that, I guess that's pretty much all I have. Just get things tidied up, get things back together. We will be on here for a first start. We're kind of working on doing our own second gen swap. He's trying to source a turbo and trying to source a manifold, and then we'll try and figure things out as far as a hot pipe. He's going to buy everything used, just because it's more budget friendly, and we'll try and figure it out from there. So the only thing we'll have to do from that is do a turbo drain, turbo feed. He may even go with just a factory second gen manifold for right now. Try and find one that's not cracked. As many of you know, they are prone for cracking. Yeah, not really an AirDog install, but just kind of show you some different but similarities from the 03 to 04. There's some different things there that you're going to want to pay attention to, and also show you the different ways of doing the return, whether you want to do the factory return or have extra fittings on hand. Some of them have come with previous AirDogs that I've installed, but most of these, the 1/2 to 3/8, I purchased these to have them extra. These are the only two fittings left that I'm going to need. This is for the CP3, and then this is for the feed from your AirDog on the hose there. So with that being said, if you guys don't mind, hit that like button, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not already done so, and we'll see you guys in the next one.